Hello everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Let me check my volume first. Guys, if you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. At this point, the channel is still demonetized. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon. During the show, if you want to give, you can give through Streamlabs/Jamarl Thomas. A little Vulcan Star Trek character will tell you thank you. Do you know what this word is? Have you come across this word in your journeys through life? Albedo. Albedo. In some cases, somebody could say that means whiteness, but what it specifically is, it's the measure of diffuse reflection of solar radiation out of the total solar. Like, so the amount of solar radiation that hits a particular object, how much of that, it's the measure of the reflection of that object. I hope that makes sense. Sun hits the sun hits Earth. Earth reflects a bit of it. What's the measure of the amount that's being reflected? The reason why I'm talking to you about this today is because we are being colonized and eaten alive, and really what it boils down to is this word, albedo, this little word that has such significance to us now because of what's taking place on our planet. The measure of diffuse reflection of solar radiation out of the solar. How much energy hits it, how much is reflected, the measurement of those things. Now, why am I giving you a science lesson? Pink snow. We're being undermined by pink snow. Shout out to Amala for sending me this. She always sends me environmental stuff. I don't get... Look, guys, I try to get to as many of these things as I can. And the problem is I can never get to them. The news never stops, and it's like when you're doing YouTube, it's constant. It's like there's always another story. There's nothing like even on slow days, it just gives you enough time to catch up a little bit of the stuff that you were doing on the previous days. So you're at this pace, one story after the next. I try to get to the ones that you guys send me, especially patrons, because after all, you're my patrons. I don't necessarily always do. It's not because I'm not fully interested in the story. There's some stories that fit within something that's going on in the news. But I do try. And Amala, shout out. Shout out. Somebody got, it doesn't matter. Let's keep going. All right, so while pink snow has been known to occur in the Arctic, a new study reveals that it's playing a bigger role in changing our climate. So yeah, we're talking about climate change, even though we're talking about pink snow. Let me explain. Let me give an overview first before reading the article. The snow in the Arctic, yes, it's cold, but it also does something else that's a little bit not necessarily as overtly known. Reflection. Meaning, as the sun hits the Earth, the Arctic, because it's all white, reflects it back. It allows the Earth to stay cooler than what the Earth would otherwise be if that reflection wasn't in place. Now, the catch to this is, the problem with the pink snow is a form of algae. The more pink snow that's generated, because it's algae, it just grows, the less reflection there is. Albedo off the planet. Meaning Earth ends up absorbing more solar radiation. We get hotter. Now, this also has a snowball effect because this algae eats away at the other snow. It warms the stuff up, it eats away at the snow, which creates more algae. It allows more algae to grow. So you have this propagation of this pink snow, which essentially allows more of the pink snow to kind of propagate. It's a snowball effect. It melts the snow, in which case there's more algae. You can kind of see the problem that I've just enumerated. If this is taking place in the Arctic, which is already experiencing this kind of ice melt, then you've created a situation where you now have a larger heat sink I don't want to use the word heat sink. You have a situation where Earth cannot adequately reflect the heat that it would typically reflect, even while the Earth is already in dire straits, particularly with where it stands with the Arctic. Let's read the story. Just make sure I haven't flubbed anything on this. Peak snow occurs as a result of algae. During the months that it was warm in the Arctic, a thin layer of meltwater forms on ice and snow. The sunlight and water are ideal growing conditions for algae, and they begin to thrive. The problem with the pink snow has to do with the albedo, or the amount of reflectivity of an object gives off. White reflects the most light. Darker colors absorb light. The more algae that forms, the less sunlight it reflects. The researchers from the German Research Center for Geosciences, GFZ, and the University of Leeds studied 40 samples in 21 glaciers across pan-European Arctic from Greenland, Iceland, and parts of Sweden. What they found was the same algae species was responsible for causing the peak snow across the Arctic. This creates a sort of snowball effect. The more glaciers and snow melt, the more algae forms. The more algae that forms, the more sunlight it absorbs, causing more melting. This is bad news for the Arctic. That's an understatement, a region that is warming faster than anywhere else on the planet. The researchers found that the algae blooms were decreasing albedo by 13% over one season. Our results point out that the bioalbedo effect is important and has to be considered in future climate models, said the lead author. The point that they're trying to make here is, if you're coming up with a model of climate change, you've just found something that needs to be added into that model, seeing as this aspect of the Earth that allowed itself to kind of push off some of the heat is being undermined and hit in the knees. Just saying. Just saying. This article is not long. This article is one of those, I guess, bad to worse. Bad to worse. Alright, I'll leave it here. Alright guys, if you enjoyed the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon. Shout out to Amala for bringing me this. And guys, send me articles. If you find something that you like, if you find something that you think will fit into the context of the show, if you find something that you think would just be an interesting piece to do, just let me know. At Twitter or my email. Alright guys, have a good one.